Hello and welcome, Mark here, and in this episode we're going to take a look at the single rib. Now this is only probably, might be the most used rib stitch. It's used for cuffs, for sleeves, collars, button bands, rims for hats, your cuff of course on socks, so it tends to be used a lot. So that's why I say it's probably the most used rib stitch. Now the rib stitch, or the single rib, or aka the 1x1 rib, so if it's an even number it's a multiple of 2, and if it's an odd number of stitches then it's worked over a multiple of 2 plus 1 at the end. The even numbers, now they worked on a 1 row repeat, that's this one, and the odd number stitches is worked on a 2 row repeat, that's this one. Only thing you have to remember is when you're doing rib, same like if you're doing something else like a moss stitch, you have to transition the yarn to get it in the right place to do a knit or purl. So that's taking the yarn between the needles back and forth. I think that's all I need to say about that one. Let's get crafting. Right, there we are, we're ready. Got the stitches here ready. And don't forget, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really does help the show. So let's start off. So this is the even number, which is a 1 row repeat. So you get ready and you knit. Then you take the yarn from the back to the front between those needles to purl. And that is the repeat. So you take the yarn to the back to knit, bring the yarn between the needles to the front to purl. And that is the single rib. Knit 1 and purl 1. Knit 1 and purl 1. And always take the yarn between the needles. Because if you don't take them between the needles and you do a knit stitch like so, and if you don't take the yarn to the back to do the purl and you just purl it, you're going to end up with this funny looking twist. So you have to tink it back, bring the yarn forward to purl. Same if you were knitting. If you left the yarn at the front and you went to knit, you've increased by 1 stitch now, which will also make a hole. So always remember to take the yarn back to knit, front to purl, back to knit, front to purl. And there you go, that's the first row done, and that 1 row is repeated throughout. So when you turn your work, you would start again with a knit and then purl. So that is the single rib done on an even number. So you would begin with a knit and you would end with a purl. You just go back, 1/4, back and forth to make your rib. So just the last few stitches on this row here, so remember, knit with the yarn at the back, bring the yarn between the needles to the front to purl, take the yarn between the needles to the back and knit. And I just tend to do the wraps sometimes without even separating the needles. So say bringing it forward and that. So that is the 1 row repeat on an even number of stitches. And just so you know, I will do the odd number, show you at the beginning of the end of the row, just to show you the difference. Okay, let's have a look at the odd number. The odd number begins with a knit stitch and it ends with a knit stitch on row 1. When you're doing a row 2, it begins with a purl and ends with a purl. So just show you the beginning and the ending of these 2 rows, because you've already got it, haven't you? So just get a bit more yarn, just with my notes, that's so I don't forget anything, because I often do forget things. So let's just show you this. Oh dear. Knit and purl, so it's nothing any different. A pattern on an odd number would probably say knit 1, and then it would say next to a star, purl 1, knit 1, repeat to the end of the row. Or it could say knit 1, purl 1, repeat to the last stitch and then knit 1. It would be one way or the other. So remember, yarn at the back for the knit, yarn to the front for the purl. So I'll just work the rest of these and I'll just show you how this row ends. Now we're coming up to the end now. And that would be an even number row, but because this is an odd number, you would end on a knit 1. Then you would turn your work, and the second row would most likely begin with a purl 1, then take the yarn to the back, and then knit 1, purl 1 to the end of the row. That's why I've done these in different colours, so I can easily tell by just looking at them which one's me odd and which one's me even rows. So I'll just work this to the end just to show you that it does end on a purl. Right, just coming up to the end of the row. Next stitch is a purl. This is a knit because of these V's at the front here. That is obviously, that is a knit stitch. And the purl have a collar around them, and you see it ends with a purl. There you go. So that is the difference. If you ever get lost on which stitch is next, you just look at them and you look at your knit stitches, and these are all V's. And purl stitches have, just separate that there, see it has a collar around them. So if you have to put your knitting down to answer the door, or someone gives you a phone call and you have to answer the phone call, and then you pick your knitting up again, you can just read your knitting to see what stitch would be next? What was your last stitch? Say if your last stitch was a purl, so you bring your yarn to the back and work a knit. It's an well, not easy, but it's an ideal technique to have when you're knitting something like a rib or a moss stitch or something like that, to be able to read your stitches. Right, okay, there you go. And that's the difference between an odd number and an even number in single rib. So I hope you liked this video. If you did, don't forget, give me a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, subscribe, and if you ring that bell, you'll get notified as soon as I upload another video. So until next time here on Marks Makes, thank you for watching. Bye.